Hello, my name is Francis Conrad, and I help people to live the life that they love. And today, in this video, I'm going to talk about something that I think is really exciting. In fact, I think it may be one of the most important things that's going to go on in our lifetime. Now, this may be an exaggeration, but to me, it feels that important. And what I'm talking about is that the way that we develop is expanding and extending so that we now have the opportunity to create literally a whole new stage of development that never existed before. So what do I mean by stage of development? Well, when we think of growing and when we think of, living a long life, we basically can break it up into parts. The most obvious parts are we start as children and then we move through a period called adolescence when we leave our parents' home and move into, school and surrounded by friends and identity. And then we move into young adulthood and often start families, might start a career, might really become involved in things that mean something to us and that we contribute as adults. Well, in the old days, child, adolescent, adulthood, that sort of covered it. And then after adulthood, the last part was just defined as grandparents. And grandparents, at least in my day, mostly meant that grandparents were focused primarily on their grandchildren. And then they experienced a short life. They were often seen as a burden on the family, and then that was the end. Well, that's what's changed. Rather than being grandparents, I think we are now at the beginning of a whole new way of thinking about this older adulthood period. So let's remove grandparents, but also I like to get rid of the term retirement. Retirement to so many of us has all kinds of negative connotations. It means that, well, I end working and so now I'm sitting around doing nothing, or now I'm filling my time, or now, I'm depleting Social Security or whatever. There's so many connotations that are not very appealing to any of us who otherwise would normally be called retired. So let's put retirement aside and let's look at what is possible. Well, the first thing that's possible is I can expect that I'm going to live a much longer life than was ever expected for my parents or my grandparents. It's just that life is to the point that we have all these resources, not only to be physically healthier, but to know how to stay psychologically healthy and to know how to really live a full and balanced life. That doesn't stop when we reach older adulthood. And in the old terms, it doesn't stop when we retire. The only thing that's different is that as a stage of development, it's new and nobody knows what to expect because nobody has done it before. So that's what's exciting about it. When somebody asks me, well, what are you going to do? It's like, boy, I get to decide. Not only do I get to decide, but there's a whole group of us who are finding that we feel younger than we expected that we would feel at this age, that we're healthier, and that we have options that we didn't know we had. Now, if we don't look at this in a positive way, we can end up holding ourselves back. And there's two primary ways that a lot of us could get stuck if we're not careful. One of them, which is, it may sound a bit weird, and I don't mean it to be a negative in a practical way, but I think so many of us might hold ourselves back in an attempt, we say, to be realistic. I've got to be realistic means, I've got all these things that I need to be concerned about, that my finances don't run out, that I'm not going to push myself beyond my capabilities, and that basically what I do is going to fit with, you know, somebody who's at my age and my state of development. Well, that's all unrealistic to me. So maybe the goal, rather than being realistic, might better be, when I reach older adulthood, it's my goal to be unrealistic. It's my goal to do things that everybody said, you can't do that. What are you attempting to do something like that? My father, when he retired, he ended up, you know, needing to have things to do. He wasn't going to sit around and do nothing. And so he would crawl underneath cars and work on engines. He would do carpentry work and build projects for my brothers and sisters. And he stayed active. But as he got older, my family members would stop him and say, you know, you're getting too old for that. You shouldn't be crawling around cars. Let the younger people do that. And as a result, they were taking away from him the things that he loved doing. And he ended up having less and less enjoyment in his life. He ended up constricting. And the sad story is that as he got older, it was like he had nothing left to do. And so he sat at the kitchen table most of the day, but his mind was sharp and he still was in, you know, good health. What would his life have been like if he was not realistic, if he was unrealistic? And when people said, you shouldn't be doing that, he could have stood up to them and said, I'm going to do what feels right to me. I'm going to do what really fulfills me and gives me a meaningful life. What a different life he could have had. There was a second thing, besides being realistic, that I think can slow us down. And especially as we get older and look at options for this new stage of life. And that second thing is so many things that we can think about, you know, dreams that we can put out there, goals and ways that we want to live, lifestyles. So many of those things, we put them out there and then we think, but I don't know how to get that. That's not something I know how to do. And we end up talking ourselves out of it because we really don't know what it is that we need to do to get it put together. Well, guess what? Let's put how along with realistic out of the picture so that now we can start with the fresh slate and be open. And I'm going to give us 5 different ways that will help us to determine what are not realistic, but possibilities for this stage of development. And they're going to be unique and different for each person, because what appeals to me is not going to be the same thing that appeals to somebody else. And in the end, I want my older stage of adulthood to fit me. I earned the right to choose the way I'm going to live. I earned the right to be the kind of person I want to be and to fill my days in ways that are meaningful and exciting to me. That's a right that I have. So realistic, no. How to do it, it doesn't matter if I know how or not. I still have a right to go after things. So let's look at what are the 5 guidelines that might help us to determine a way to move forward into older adulthood. The first one is, if I'm going to do it, and this has been implied in everything I said, if I'm going to do it and if it's going to feel right to me, then it's going to be authentic. It's going to be something that really represents me, my true self. I'm not going to be phony, trying to do things to impress people or to be anything other than just myself. And just myself is not a limitation. To be anything other than who I truly am is a better way to say it. I want to be something that feels right for me. And I want it to be so right that each day when I get up, I think, I got another day. I can't wait to get going. I want days when I can get out of bed looking forward to everything that lies ahead. I want months and years that have things that attract me, so that as I'm moving towards things, I may not know clearly how to get there, but I know what I'm sort of heading towards. It feels like something I would love to have, and so I'm going to go for it. I'm going to give all that I have. I'm going to be all that I am. That's the first one. It's got to fit me. It's got to be my truth. It's got to be authentic. Second one is balance. So many times we might make our decisions about how to live our life with a very small focus, like many of the people who are helping older adults to look at this stage. They're looking at finances, and the problem is it's finances alone. That's all that they're concerned about. They're missing so many parts that make a full life. And so when we look at designing our older adult, we're looking at the kind of friends we want to have, the kind of relationships, and that expands beyond family, but it includes family. We want to look at the flow of income and money, and that might be that we're stable and what we have supports all of our dreams, or it might be that we create ways to bring finances into our life and to create more flow. So many people my age are actually starting new businesses, becoming entrepreneurs, because they have a whole other way of being inside of them, and they want to give it a chance to be expressed in a business. Well, why not? Who says older adults in their 70s can't start a whole new career, can't start a whole new business? Especially when we think that it's going to be possible for us to be living beyond 100, beyond 110. So why shouldn't I start a business? I have plenty of time. And if I love the idea of doing something that's mine, who has the right to tell me not to do it? So we want balance. We want to look at finances as well as relationships, as well as, just looking at how we want to relax and spend our time. For me, that's going to include travel. It's going to include going out of the country and going to different places. For other people, it might include, arts and crafts or creativity of different sorts. But we want to make sure that when we create a lifestyle, we're going to do it in as complete a way as possible, and that whatever we come up with is going to be something that really resonates with me, with who I am. So it's got to be balanced. First one was, it's got to be authentic. It's got to be unique for me. And then I think that there's nothing short of needing to always grow and expand and get bigger. If I'm not growing, I'm probably going the opposite way. You might say that I'm slowly moving towards death. Well, I can move into life by expanding, by taking on more, by doing things I've never done, taking on new challenges, learning. This is what the whole of life is about. Look at life around you, and what's going on is in every area of life, there are new technologies and new advancements, new ways of doing things, new ways of understanding. So why wouldn't that be a part of my life as an older adult? So I choose to take on and to expand and to be more and to grow. And that's the only way that I'm going to really be a part, not only of older adults, but older adults are a part of all of life. We're a part of the community. We're a part of everything that we gather around us, and that might be others who join us in joint ventures, who knows. The next thing is challenge. I think that I stay young simply because I challenge myself. I refuse to stop growing. It's very similar to the last one. The last one says I get bigger, I expand, I become more. This one says the way that I do that is I'm always challenging myself. I'm always thinking about what could I do differently? What could I do that I've never attempted before? Those challenges, you could say, they tap into something that's alive and living for us, and something that really makes us a vital part of our whole community. The last thing, and maybe the one that's most attractive to me, because I'm so attached to travel and to adventure, is that I think that the older adult stage of development, more than anything, is a possibility to be a pioneer. It's a chance to be like our early forefathers, to go out there and to do things like that nobody's done before, and explore new territories. To move across the country is what our forefathers did. They got on boats, they left home, and they got off the boat, and they didn't stop. They continued to settle and move across the country. They went all the way from the East Coast to the West. And these were the pioneers who basically are part of my own blood. And now that the older stage of adulthood is giving me a chance to live not just to 80, but to 90, 100, and past 100, well, that gives me the opportunity to be a pioneer, to move through those years, to move through my 80s, 90s, 100s, and to do it really exploring all of what's possible and all of what I can bring to these opportunities to live longer. I'll find that we're learning more and more about how to be healthy and stay healthier. We're learning more and more about how to really balance our psychological needs and how to live a life that really is not only productive, but it's efficient. All these things are going to be continuing to expand and grow. And as a part of this population, as a part of the community around me, I'm going to be a part of that expansion and growth too, because I'm a pioneer. And the things that they said about my parents and grandparents, being grandparents and focused on the family, they're going to find out soon enough that that's not going to fit me. Yes, I'm a grandparent. Yes, I'm going to be focused on the family and so much more. And I'm going to have a life of my own. And I'm going to create a pioneership. I'm going to go across these years, this expansion, not only with health, but doing things that not only amaze others, but they'll amaze me too. And so, let's look now at, what is this all about? To me, what it's about is life is a gift. And this gift is given to me to use, especially at this stage of life, to use in any way I choose. This gift is like a freebie, life's golden ticket. It's like, here, you've got another 30 years. Use it well, use it as you choose. And what this video is about is giving me some guidelines to make sure that I don't squander, reduce myself, limit what's possible. That might be appropriate if I was just going to live a very short time and my energy was going to go down. But what if it's the opposite? Then I prepare myself for a whole new fullness. I prepare myself for so much more than even I ever thought might be possible at this stage of life. So what a gift. And those of us who are seniors, those of us who are older adults, we're right at the beginning. We join together. I call older adults to join me in this process of exploring what's going to be possible? Let's do it in a way that really fits not only who I am, but it's balanced and contributes to those around me and surprises everybody with how great this last stage of life can be. And when I look back, I want to be able to say that the last stage of my life was really the greatest. I want to look back and say the last stage of my life is when I got to really take all the stops away and be myself. And so that's what I offer in this tape, but it's what I wish for everybody, that as we live longer, it's not just an extension in years, but as we live longer, it's a possibility, it's an option for a fuller life, so much more beyond anything that we thought in the past would even be possible. So I wish this for everybody. May you have the life that you love. That's what that stands for. And definitely I'm always interested in feedback. It helps me give direction in terms of what I talk about. And when you leave comments, it shows me that, you know, this message is going out there. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to share some ideas on something that I'm sure, when I look back, is going to be one of the greatest opportunities of our lifetime. So thank you and take care.